Hello, welcome to HLA Live. HLA Live is our regular broadcast on the HLA YouTube channel as well as all the other social media channels. Each week we talk to interesting people from across the HLA community.
Good evening, everyone. I am really excited to be chairing tonight's meeting.
Hi, I'm Rosie Spooner and I'm hosting HLA Live this Wednesday.
And I'm an HLA scholar and I'm also going to be your host this evening.
To share with us their ideas and their innovations and hopefully bring them to a global audience.
Quite quick, we have ideas, let's do this, let's do that. So
many of the topics come from our community, with scholars and faculty expressing an interest in many of the discussions that we're about to have.
Hello everyone and welcome to the HLA Live session on widening participation in the postgraduate realm.
Homelessness and health.
Addiction and the new normal.
HLA programs are built on 6 pillars. The leader is an innovator and entrepreneur. The leader is a communicator. The leader is a manager. The leader as a negotiator. The leader as a follower. And the leader as a philosopher. If you are interested in becoming a HLA scholar, why not get in contact? Many of the episodes in HLA Live will cover one or more of these important pillars. The HLA team consists of Pedra, Eamon, Tim, Riddy, Alistair, Adil and Trisha, and a range of other HLA scholars and faculty. Episode 35 of HLA Live is once again hosted by Eleanor Morris and is entitled Balance, Taking Opportunities in Work and Life.
Hello, welcome back to episode 2 of Women in Healthcare Leadership's webinar series this year. For anyone who's not seen our first episode, I'd recommend you have a look. Women in Healthcare Leadership is a network within the Healthcare Leadership Academy. And today we'll be talking about balance and about taking opportunities in work and in life, as female leadership is still disproportionately small compared to the number of female healthcare workers we have. And part of that comes down to the impressions we have about work-life balance. So without further ado, I'm going to go on and interview our speakers. And the first question that we have is, why do actually female doctors sometimes worry about striking a work-life balance? So what are those problems and those barriers? And when do these concerns start? So we're going to move to some of our speakers to answer this first question.
Okay, so I think that some of the problems and the barriers that we have lies in the types of personality or women that go for the roles in the first place. So I feel that when you go for something like medicine or dentistry, you are automatically, you're going to be a strong person, you're going to be driven, you're going to be academically brilliant, highly intelligent, perfect age. You've just never failed. And that is part of the problem. We need to fail more, because when you've never failed, you aim for perfection. So I think when it comes to work life, there is this pressure that I feel to be the perfect house manager, to be the perfect dentist, to be great at my job in leadership, to be the perfect mummy, to be the perfect wife, friend, cook, whatever it might be. And when we don't achieve that, it's failure.
Yeah, so it's quite an interesting question. I feel that the question of why do female doctors, clinicians, or in any leadership capacity have these barriers is that you tend to have backward mindsets that come into play, and these are where the problems and barriers start. So concerns start arising, I feel, due to societal pressures. So society makes these barriers for females exist. So the questions that we get asked as females: when are you getting married? When are you going to have children? Oh, you can't choose that career pathway if you want to be a mother. So these are the things that I've heard personally myself. But it's who made up these rules.
Personally, I'm a clinical academic or aspiring clinical academic. And I think that any clinical academic finds it hard to balance clinical and academic life. And then you throw into the mix becoming a mother, taking maternity leave, having a husband who has a very involved job as well. So you take that sort of primary caregiver role on top of trying to balance clinical and academic commitments. And you just become, it becomes a little bit too much sometimes.
I think for me, realising that I wasn't going to be brilliant at everything, you know, because you want to be brilliant at everything, but realizing at some point you're not going to be able to do that was one of the main realizations.
So for me, the concerns on work-life balance, when I knew there was an issue, was when recently, it was during COVID, I walked in on my family watching a film and I got a cheer. And it was, yay, mummy's here. And it was so upsetting, so deeply upsetting, because I didn't realize that my absence was tangible to them. I didn't realize that, you know, when they say, oh, can you put your phone away? And especially my husband, can you just put your phone away? Because then I'm physically there, but mentally I'm not.
We need to remember it's not about blame. It is a natural tendency that many women in particular going into a caring profession will want to be the best for everyone, but perhaps they never quite meet that requirement, satisfy everybody, can't keep everybody happy, and so their sense of feeling like they're chasing their tail the whole time, trying to, you know, be the best. And in fact, what we should be doing is settling that what is good enough role here.
Also, I think people tend to achieve more if they have role models that look like them or seem to have similar life experiences to them. 50% of all PhD candidates, clinical academics, are female. There's a nice equal split, but only 20% of women go on to be professors. And so, you know, 80% are male. So you don't have that kind of role model to aspire to necessarily. You might be very lucky in your unit, and there are some incredible women who have reached that sort of pinnacle of clinical academia, but I think it's sometimes more difficult to aspire to something that you don't necessarily see others in your position doing as well.
And also it can be influenced by cultural factors and traditions as well. And it's the education of the society that really needs to have that awareness in order for these questions to stop coming into play in conversations. It's about not rushing as well. So we feel that we need to rush. Just because you're female, it doesn't mean you have to get married at a certain age, or you know, you have to have kids at a younger age. Obviously, there is, you know, female questions and concerns that come into place when we're talking about having children, but it's an individual's decision. And I often think society forgets that. So some women might see children as having a barrier in their career, and others don't. So I think it's very unique to each individual. And I feel like you can have it all, and it's just about how you support yourself more than anything.
The second question is, do you think that the stereotypical conflict between being a doctor and a mother still exists?
So I think that being in any role within healthcare, there is stereotypes attached to each role. And I feel that it's whether the stereotype still exists in people's minds more than anything. So it's what the environment that someone's been in has really conditioned them to think.
There is definitely a lot more understanding now, and there are mothers in leadership roles, and there are organisations and different initiatives to help mothers back into work. There's a lot more support than there was, but I think there's just the general feeling as a clinician or a caregiver that you owe so much to your patients and to the NHS that you still feel guilty that you're not giving everything.
It is never-ending guilt, basically. You always feel tired, and again, you never feel like you're quite, you know, achieving what you should be for everybody else. So you can feel like you know, you try really hard, but you never quite make it. You can't keep everybody happy, whether that's your children or your patients and your work colleagues. You're always pulled in both directions.
And then you go home and you're not giving everything to your child. So there's this huge conflict within you.
So for example, my mum went back to university full time to study when she had my sister and I as children. But throughout my life, I watched my mum, you know, be the cooker, the cleaner, work full time. I watched my dad work full time as well, but he didn't come back and do all the cooking and all the cleaning. And I kind of feel that she was the leader of the house, and she was available for us as well.
So resilience is key. Having that resilience of, I've got through today, and it was a hellish day, and it's been meeting after meeting, and my back's hurting, and I've still got to do X, Y, and Z for the kids. And then, mummy, what's for dinner? But you get through it, and you know that means you're closer to post-COVID, hopefully, or getting used to adapting to a new way of life.
And myself, I don't have children at this moment, hopefully soon, but I don't feel that having children has stopped me, thinking about having children has stopped me in making any decisions for my career, because I do think that you can consider both aspects and not be scared to consider both aspects. I think as well that postponing children to pursue career is something that comes into play. So it is like a conflict, I think, in females' minds, but actually you don't need to take the conventional career route and have to do everything, right at the times of when is expected of you. And I think, I've done that myself. I've not done the conventional route of going in my career, and I had an amazing chat with a professor not too long ago actually about career routes and just discussing with her, and she gave me really great advice that really enforced me that you can have it all. If you want a family, you can develop your career throughout your life with your family alongside you, and I think that the stereotype does exist amongst many other things, but it's actually how you view that stereotype as well in the decisions you make.
Have you ever encountered problems engaging in leadership or in academic opportunities due to reasons related to being a woman?
So, yeah, this is quite a strong question, isn't it? So the question is, being a female, has it stopped me engaging in leadership or academic opportunities? Absolutely not. But has a female caused me to have barriers or challenges in pursuing these opportunities? Absolutely, yes.
See, the reason why I find that one difficult to answer is whenever there are barriers, lots of barriers, but is that a barrier because of I'm a woman, or because I'm a woman of colour? Or is that because actually when I was going for them, I was really quite young? And could it be even ageism? So was there a perceived lack of inexperience? How will I get the experience unless you let me in? It became this vicious cycle. But especially over the last few weeks, I have started to see more and more that gender inequalities still exist. They are massive. And it's, it's sorry to say, but we need to start focusing on the elephant in the room.
I have definitely had comments about jobs that I've applied for where I've literally been told, well, I can't imagine a woman doing the job. Or when I applied for one job, I was heavily pregnant, and I was taken to one side by somebody whose absolute intentions I'm sure were right, but to tell me that, when you're a mum, you'll feel differently, you won't want to do this job. And I obviously smiled politely and said, okay, well, let's just see what happens. And of course, I loved the job, and I did, carry on with it for many years.
So I think we have to think about this and admit to ourselves that in this daily life we're pretty lucky, the opportunities that we as females have. And I shouldn't have to say that we're lucky, but in terms of previous generations, comparison to what opportunities females had, we tend to have a lot more available to us in previous generations, and unfortunately in today's world it still exists in some areas where they don't have these opportunities. But I've been told by a male in a senior position before I secured my leadership job role that I would never make it any higher within the leadership world due to me being female, one, mixed race, and having a bubbly personality, because it doesn't go hand in hand is what I was told. So having someone in a senior position say that, having someone in a senior position say in terms of academic opportunities, I shouldn't bother submitting work to an international conference because it will never get accepted. So it's how you react and you respond to this. So for the leadership aspect, I went for the job anyway and I got it. So you just turn around and think, okay, well, obviously what they were saying is their opinion and that's their view, but it's not everybody's view.
When it comes to sexism or everyday sexism, and again, another barrier are things like assumptions that have been made. So I have had an interview, are you married? Which again, relevance. Are you going to be having children soon? the assumption that you're going to go on maternity soon. I remember one interview where the gentleman in question asked, well, if the kids are sick, would it be you that needs to stay at home? And it's ludicrous, and that was a long time ago. We're talking at least 8 years ago. The assumptions now that homeschooling must be done by women, or you must have an incredibly supportive husband. Well, no, maybe actually. I'm a single mum. I'm managing to juggle kids. I'm managing to juggle schooling and hold down a career. That you can't have that assumption that you must be supported in order to do that. So that's the sort of everyday sexism that I feel that we get. So what it leads to is, I feel, a double effort to get anywhere, because we're automatically at a disadvantage. So it's the adage that we might have the same end goals, but we're starting from completely different starting blocks. So if you're a white male starting here, then I'm probably somewhere down here. So I have to work double hard to get here, and then to actually be respected in my career or get anywhere, I've got to put the double effort in, and that is automatically a barrier physically and mentally, where there's just I don't feel there's any equity to be able to get to where you want to get to.
There was actually a period when I was breastfeeding, so I couldn't go away, and there goes my husband. So yeah, there were times when I was breastfeeding and I couldn't spend time away from my child. So I couldn't go on a residential course away with my laboratory, which would have been really beneficial to the work that I was doing at the time.
Organisational structures. So what I mean by that are the barriers with the recruitment process. And that can be the way that the advert is written, using very masculine language, such as confident, strong, even the word leadership sometimes. Whereas women don't see themselves doing these things, they wouldn't respond so much to those sorts of words. Maybe things like when meetings are held, things like when they're held during the school run time, when it's run during an evening, when it's bedtime, just tiny barriers again that are put into place where you just think, I can't commit to that if that is indeed your situation. And the bias within things like essential criteria. So there's a whole section on the papers that you may have written. Well, we already know it's out there, the studies have been done, women do not write as many research papers as men. So automatically you are favouring males over females, because it's just not something that has been done for whatever complex reason that may be. And it's the same with your current, this one really irks me, which other senior positions have you held? I haven't been able to hold a senior position because every senior position I go for asks me which other senior positions I've held. And that is a double whammy, because people of colour, and as well as being female, it's the snowy peaks. We know that it's a very white male dominated field, the executive levels, executive boards. So if that's going to be a barrier for me to get in, how will I ever get the experience and be able to write it onto my CV in the first place? And I feel that that's something that really does need to go.
And then in terms of the conference aspect, so academic opportunities, I thought at that time, I was, quite early on in my training, it could have completely put me off submitting anything, but I thought, what, I'll submit more things in the hope that something gets accepted. Every single piece that I submitted got accepted. Ended up going abroad for the conference, jumping off a cliff in the middle of it as well. But the thing is, I think that it's how you respond to these challenges, and that can be quite difficult, and it takes experience and time. These challenges come, I think, from males and females towards anyone in the working place. So it's not just related to, males putting women down. Essentially, it's both. It can happen in terms of the need to be more collaboration and empowerment, as opposed to so much competition in the workplace. But I have encountered problems, and you overcome these just like you do with a lot of challenges.
So I know a lot of our speakers have amazing experiences beyond their clinical work, and it would be really nice to know what actually caused our interviewees to start pursuing those opportunities beyond clinical practice.
So I think that it's what's innate in you in terms of what you want to pursue, and I think that that's really important. I think that within healthcare especially, sometimes with so many people around you, you feel pressured into pursuing certain opportunities that you might not have that passion for. And I think that's one really big lesson that you learn quite early on, or I learned quite early on, that I pursue what I'm interested in.
I needed to do something different for raising awareness, educating people, sharing my knowledge. I just felt like doing it as a one-to-one with each patient that came through the door just kind of wasn't cutting it anymore. I suppose I have realized, and you do over a period of time, you'll realize what kind of person you are, and I'm a person who likes something new, a new challenge every few years. So I've always loved reading, but I never thought, I'll write a book. But when I got to have more time and more space, and I was starting to give these talks and so on, I was then approached, and someone said, would you like to write some books? In fact, a series of books for students. And I thought, well, yeah, that sounds great. And obviously you need help and an editor and all of those things. You don't just sit down and it just appears by magic. But I sort of would be presented with opportunities, and you choose the ones you say yes to. And
I've always if I see an opportunity, I will take it.
I'm really interested in, making change. I'm really interested in inequalities specifically. So within my leadership or non-clinical role, improving access to dental care, improving recruitment and retention in specific areas of high need. That's where my passion lay, as well as global health initiatives. I've been to India, Gambia, and done a lot of global health work, because I'm much of an advocate that dentists and the dental profession itself and as a whole have the transferable skill sets, probably because I'm in the secondary care environment, so I'm very close to the rest of health and social care, whereas sometimes in primary care dental practice, dentists are working a bit in a silo. And I feel that what has encouraged me is passion, drive, motivation, and other people. I think that having that support network around you, and I have to say that I've had that support network from both female role models and male mentors as well. So I feel that surrounding yourself with those people that do encourage you to reach your potential is why I've taken the opportunities.
When I was asked to do a TEDx talk, it is probably the most nerve-wracking thing that I've done, and I don't get nervous before public speaking. So for me, it was really unusual to be nervous, but I think the format and the formality of it, and the fact that you're timed and all of that, you have to memorize everything and be ready to go, that was quite intimidating as an experience, but also it's one of the best things I've ever done. So I'm very much about when opportunities come along, and they might not be where you expect them. So one of the best things I've ever done was to be an expedition doctor many years ago, and then I ended up being there for sort of 4 or 5 months in the Malaysian jungle. But I went because I'd gone for a job, an SHO role as it turned out, which I didn't get. And I'd been, like most of us, somebody who got things when they went through. You passed your driving test first time, passed all your exams, got the jobs you wanted for house jobs or whatever. And then I went for this SHO job, and I walked away and hadn't got it. And I thought, what am I going to do for 6 months? And so I went back to the job I was currently doing, because obviously I was doing another job at the time. And in the coffee room about 2 weeks later, I saw a poster for an expedition saying we need medics, and why not try this, and departing soon kind of thing. And I thought, right, well, I'll do that. And actually I went into it just thinking, well, it'll fill the time till the next job, and it turned out to be absolutely transformational. It was an amazing experience. It showed me that I loved young people's medicine, because we were looking after obviously young people. So I think the opportunities you take, you never know where they're going to lead you, and it's about not being afraid to say yes and try those new things.
I've also not feared. So if there's an opportunity that I've felt, do you know what, I'm going to go for that, I have went for that, and I've not sat back and thought, God, what if I fail? I kind of thought, if I don't get the job, or if I don't get that role, that's fine, I'll learn from it. And I've never really thought about not applying for something in case I failed it, because this public school that I came from, not that many people went to university, and it was spoken to me at an early age, you might not make it into dentistry, so think about other options. I've always rebelled against that, I guess, and I thought if someone thinks I can't do it, then I'm possibly going to see if I can change their mind and show them that I can. And so I'm really invested, I guess, to improve things. And I guess from my own experience, I think leadership, you don't have to be in a leadership role to be doing leadership activities. Having a team surrounding you and getting people on board with your vision is how you can pursue things. And that support network is just crucial. It's just vital throughout a healthcare career, I think.
And finally, what empowering message would you give to young female clinicians who would like to follow a career like yours?
Find your support network. It's very difficult to do everything on your own. You have done maybe so far, and you are amazing. You can do this, but find someone who's maybe done something that you want to do, talk to them about it, and yeah, find your support network. Also, don't say yes to everything.
I think that would be one of my main messages for younger female clinicians, would be to consider all the opportunities that are offered to you. Don't say yes to everything, but say yes to even the ones that might be a little bit, scary or intimidating, or you just think, oh, I never thought I'd do that.
One of my biggest bits of advice is stay true to yourself. Grab a seat at that table is number 2. And if you want to wear lipstick, you wear lipstick, because I think one of the biggest things is that you feel like you need to be molded. So if you want to get into that leadership role, if you want to be in that surgical role, you have to start acting like the people around you. Now, you don't need to, change the way you dress or try and be more strong in terms of the way you act. And I think that that's a really important point, because I've never changed who I've got kind of somebody that laughs a lot, I smile a lot. That doesn't make me a weaker person, actually. That's just my personality, and that's something that I won't change. And I think a lot of people feel that they have to change who they are in order to secure a role. And actually, if you don't get that role due to the fact that maybe the people around you don't feel like you fit in it, you don't want to be in that position. I think kindness as well is your strength, not your weakness. I think often kindness is taken as being a weakness, or they're too kind, they're too weak. I don't think so at all. I think that that's a really big strength. And if you have that and you are that type of person, it's using that to your advantage, and be so damn good at what you do that they have no option but to give you a seat at the table, or you grab that chair. And I think that's massive for me. And I think that HLA actually teaches you quite early on, I guess, if you don't turn up, you can't lead.
I'm really excited by where we are right now. I think this is a real turning point. There is a wonderful quote that I heard recently by Bella Abzug, and it was, in the 21st century, women will change the nature of power rather than power changing the nature of women, which I think is what it's done previously. We are being noticed, we are being seen, we are being heard. So we have male allies that can see us for who we are. And not because they're doing us a favour, not because, we better take it away, but we better get them in, but because we've earned it, because they can see it. Those with the emotional intelligence, they can see it. And men feel this too. They feel this need for change as well.
That's perfect. Thank you so much. I'd just like to thank all of our speakers that we've had across this episode. I'd like to thank you for coming along and watching. And as with all of our episodes, this particular episode is linked with a charity, and we'd really encourage you to pay as you feel towards that charity if you've enjoyed the episode. This particular episode has been linked with Students for Kids International Project, otherwise known as SKIP. You can check out their donation link in the YouTube description, and for more information you can see them on social media. Thank you, take care, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you to everyone that made tonight's episode possible. Whenever our scholars are thinking about complex problems facing our health systems, we encourage them to think about how they make significant change in the world of healthcare. We are incredibly lucky to have some incredible scholars in the HLA. They use the HLA as a platform to take their ideas and bring them to fruition. If you are interested in the work of the HLA, why not join us at one of our future HLA events? Why not join one of our programmes? Why not even become a HLA scholar? Thank you for joining us. My name is Johan Marlewiner, the Director of the HLA, and it's a good night from all of us.